What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We got some news for Pokemon, which is good considering it's out in like a month or so, but we know how much space you will need on your SD card, or I guess your system memory, since it should fit there when it comes out if you decide to download it. And it's catching some people off guard a bit here because Pokemon is bigger than I think a lot of people were expecting to be. We're going to talk a bit about that and why that is. And then I also wanted to go over an interesting mod for Zelda Link's Awakening that has some people maybe arguing a little bit about what it has removed, whether it's actually made the game better or worse. And then we have some news for Fortnite as a leak came out, and Halo Infinite maybe going through few issues there. As always, guys, doing these videos, make sure you hit the like button. It does help out, and get subscribed so you can stay up to date on all the gaming news going on in the gaming world with the little notification bell on. Today, actually, we're going to start with Microsoft and their Xbox One, and them possibly being able to filter out bad comments, messages, even voice. It's very interesting here. This is actually something that was put out. The Verge even did a full write-up on it with a ton of information. A trailer was put out by Microsoft explaining this safety feature, and I will stress right away, this does appear to be something that you can toggle on and off to varying degrees of, I guess, rating, like G, PG, PG-13R, I guess, kind of, or just nothing. Yeah, it's an interesting idea depending on what you want to actually see online. They even go on further to say that they can identify, possibly, we'll see how all this goes, actual voice and words that are being said to bleep them out like it would be done on TV. And that is surprising, I guess, because it's done almost in real time to a degree. I mean, it's not bad for people who don't want to have that going on when they're playing a game, but I would always just use the mute option back in the day, even now, you just mute people pretty easily. But I do know there are people who just don't like voice chat online because of this, and really, if this can help you out with your experience online and it's fully user controllable, I don't mind the option being there. I'm just curious how it's going to work in context. The way, friends might talk to each other and everything. You never know how, I guess, the bots and stuff on Xbox will respond and maybe give out bans. I don't know. We'll see how all this goes down, but I guess interesting stuff with them working with AI and everything on Microsoft. And sticking with Microsoft, invites for XCloud are going out now. Before, you could sign up for a beta and you can try it on your Android device, and now people are getting to actually try it. It is launching. We are finally here. XCloud is going out into the wild. All of those presentations, those little controlled demos that we've seen, well, they're all going to start popping up online with impressions, and people have already started to share them. We've had a couple websites like Thurrott kind of talk a bit about it, and it sounds like kind of how I'd expect. I signed up for it. I haven't received an invite yet, but if I do, be sure we'll be talking about that here, and I guess what their streaming service can actually do, in the wild, in a less controlled environment with, their really nice speeds and everything there. It's going to be interesting to see how all of this works out. Now, there are a couple games that people are trying. So far, I've seen Gears, Halo, and I believe Killer Instinct all tried, and Killer Instinct's a fighting game. That one's going to be interesting to see as well. But I guess if you signed up, check your email, because you might actually have an invite, and you can go try it right now. They have a couple games, like I said, set up, and it might be worth seeing how the future of streaming could be from Microsoft, who has touted XCloud for quite a while now. Let's see what it can do. Also, reviews for Witcher 3 on the Switch went out. Metacritic has posted a score so far of 85, which is good, I would say. I mean, Witcher 3 generally scores pretty well because it's Witcher 3 and it's a great game in general. But from what I've seen, it seems like it is amazing as a portable experience, less amazing as a docked experience, but that's kind of what I expect, considering there are several other versions, pretty much probably any other one, that would look better on a TV, and obviously the best one to probably go with would be PC, I would assume, at that point, considering I think the Xbox One X still struggles with the game and everything, but having it on PC looks great. However, none of them can play it like the Switch can in a handheld format there. So it's going to be fascinating, I think, to see it on something like the Switch Lite, which is basically a true handheld, the Vita successor, if you will. And Witcher 3, portable, Very interesting. However, the port seems good in that case if you're going to be playing it on the go, and everyone's been singing its praises from that angle, less so, like I said, docked. But amazing stuff to see that game running off of a battery on a mobile chipset, and it's out today, and it seems like the physical copy comes with all kinds of stuff, but that's CD Projekt Red fighting against microtransactions, DRM, and apparently just coming with a cartridge that holds 32 gigabytes of data and just a case isn't good enough, so check that one out. And guys, some of the quick things that way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Pokemon Sword and Shield right away. Now, of course, this is out next month, and there's still a lot of information we need to see. We haven't even seen necessarily the evolutions for the starters, which is impressive that we have not seen those yet so close to launch, but I do kind of think there may be some sort of live stream / direct or something, not necessarily even called a direct, just more information about Pokemon ahead of launch, just to kind of get a few things sorted out. But one thing we know now is how large this game is going to be, as it started to kind of get out there after download cards started showing up in Japan, and then people started posting images of the back, and wouldn't you know it, it is 10.3 gigabytes in size. That is larger, I think, than a lot of people were expecting, considering Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee, just over 4 gigabytes. In fact, we have a little list here of all the different games and their sizes and everything. This is actually shared on Twitter by MU Crush, X and Y being 1.7 gigabytes, or the Oris being 1.8 gigabytes, then Sun and Moon 3.2, Ultra Sun and Moon 3.6, and then Let's Go at 4.1, like I said. That is much larger than the 3DS counterparts, not quite 10 times larger, but pretty close. So a lot of people now are trying to figure out, what does this actually mean? Well, to be honest, it's kind of hard to say. I figured the games would get larger. I think most people did, going from the 3DS to the Switch, because we saw that with Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee, which was, I think, a simpler take, we'll say, right, on the mainstream hardcore Pokemon series. Well, here we are now with 10 gigabytes in size, more than twice the size of, almost 3 times, of Eevee and Pikachu. So what does that mean? Well, it could mean that maybe there is more content there than people were expecting. That's one thing I've seen pop up. It could also mean that audio, there's more audio to it. Maybe there's more text overall, more bigger textures. It really is hard to say, but it has caught some people off guard, as we've heard a lot of people assuming that there would be less content here, and here we are now looking at over 10 gigabytes to download. And now I'm really interested to see what is in these games, because the more we think about it, really, I mean, think about how much they've told us. It feels like it hasn't been a ton of stuff. I mean, we've seen some basics, right? They showed some battle mechanics, they've showed some different gyms. Remember, we had that report of 18 gyms, and they said, oh wait, no, that's not correct. It's been kind of all over the place, and I mean, the biggest piece of news recently is that there's a new Ponyta, right? So we're to the point where I think most of us are ready for it to come out, and maybe that's how we'll learn, or maybe they really will have a 15 to 20 minute like pre-recorded thing that they put up that just tells us about what's in this 10.3 gigabytes in space. But one thing's for sure, it definitely surprised a lot of people, and hey, maybe these games really will be much larger than a lot of us were assuming. Next up, let's talk about this mod that's now been put out there for Link's Awakening on the Switch, and what this mod has done, which I at this point, obviously, you'd have to have your Switch hacked and everything, but what this mod has done is remove something that a lot of people have pointed out that's kind of annoyed them, and that's like the blur. If you look at Link's Awakening, you're playing it, you've probably noticed that the top of the screen and the bottom of the screen they're both blurred out, right? And it's kind of designed to make this tilt shift effect. So you're supposed to be focusing on the center of the screen. It's supposed to look like a diorama. There's another reason why it would be like that, to give it a certain effect. I don't want to put too much out there just in case you have not played it yet, because that could get into some spoiler territory for the ending, but if you've beaten it, you kind of know what I'm getting at here, what that effect is supposed, that hazy effect around the outside, we'll say, is supposed to look like and represent. But people don't like it, and not everyone, but some people don't like it. I actually am not as big of a fan of it as I thought I would be. It became less and less distracting as I played, but whenever I would turn it on after like not playing it for the night, like the next day, I would notice and be like, oh yeah, and then it would slowly kind of fade into the back of my mind as I'm playing, just because the game is good. But still, it is noticeable, and I think a lot of that has to do with the back being okay, but something about that front blur, the one to the bottom of the screen, just doesn't necessarily seem to look right at times, depending on what's in the foreground. But anyway, that has actually been removed. The mod has removed it. There are several videos. BSOD had a video up that showed it, and it does look a lot cleaner, I'll admit. And I look at it and I say, okay, I wish there was some sort of option in the game just to turn it off. I know they don't want to necessarily compromise their artistic vision when it comes to this, and there is a theme, like I said, around why it's like that, but it really does look cleaner when you're playing it, and I feel like that's something I would have on, and I'd be like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool, and then I turn it off, and that would be that. Kind of like, almost like motion blur in a game. Like, I turn that pretty far down when I'm playing, but let me know what you think about this mod, and because I've seen a lot of people kind of arguing over if it's good or bad to have the blur, or if they'd prefer it one way or the other. Let me know if you would leave it on if you had the option, or if you just cut that right off. Next up, let's talk a little bit about Halo Infinite. Of course, this is going to be launching next holiday alongside the Xbox Scarlet, which we know less about than the PlayStation 5, which is still kind of strange. I figure Microsoft want to jumpstart the next generation as soon as possible with how the Xbox One has been, we'll say, underperforming. It's going to finish in last place pretty much out of this entire generation after the Switch most likely passes it later on this holiday. But Microsoft is kind of just rolling along. They're coasting right now, and Halo Infinite looks to be their big blowout going into next generation. But people are starting to realize that there may be some issues, but we've also had some responses. So I figured we'd go over it very, very quickly here, just in case you hear anything about it. So this was actually posted up on their subreddit, as you're seeing here, saying Halo Infinite director Tim Longo left the company 2 months ago. He was replaced by Mary Olsen, and she also left the company recently, with them asking what is going on at 343. Now from there, below that, responding to this thread as the title was a 343 employee that kind of shed some light on the situation, saying, unfortunately, the thread's title saying he was replaced with Mary Olsen and she also left is far from accurate. It implies that Mary took over creative control of the entire game, didn't like what she saw, then decided to leave. If that's what actually happened, I could totally understand and get worried, but that isn't the case, as she was a lead producer and not a new creative director. Tim's role as creative director was to help make creative decisions around the design and direction of the game, whether it was campaign, multiplayer, etc. Mary's role as an executive producer and then lead producer on campaign was to help drive the game to its completion for our holiday 2020 release, with the latter specifically focusing on campaign deliverables. So what's happened here is, it seems, one, I guess Mary maybe got a better job somewhere, but otherwise, basically trying to explain that this project doesn't necessarily rely on any one person. Everyone kind of is set off into their own projects and kind of, I guess, tasks when actually designing this game. So it's not really that any one person is running the entirety of it that has now left. They were just people who are working on different parts of it, and basically the machine will move on and continue with Halo Infinite. So while there's been a lot of panic, it doesn't necessarily mean that this game is like dead in the water or anything. They'll move on with new producers and leads and everything and kind of work towards the finish line for this game. I think this game is way too big for Microsoft to let fail if like one or two people just leave, even if they are producers or anything, because there are so many people working on this at 343, they can pretty much pick up where they left off, and it seems like that's what they're doing going forward. Hopefully we'll see some gameplay, or maybe just more information at XO, but I think they'll have a big gameplay blowout next E3, possibly on Scarlet. And our last bit of news, talk a little bit about Fortnite. We talked about Fortnite yesterday, as of course it went down. It basically just became a black hole, and everyone was wondering, what's going on here? Well, it seemed like a new map was probably getting introduced, and that does appear to be what's happening. We saw on China, they had an advert that talked a bit about how apparently this is happening October 15th, so soon, I guess. We'll see. There's been no official time yet as of this recording, but it could be today when that happens. However, we did get a leaked trailer, and then eventually someone put it out saying they had the permission of Epic Games to do so, and it shows quite a bit. It does show a brand new map, appears to be what they're playing on, has boats. You have the ability to carry your teammates around, it seems. They were hopping around on pogo sticks. This looks like a massive revamp of the game, which is great, because I think that most people would say it was becoming a bit stale, and this should kind of reinvigorate the entire series, and it's gonna be really, really neat to see how the map has changed and really what's going on. But hopefully it's not still down, or it's coming back soon, because I've seen people, 10,000, 20,000 people watching streams of nothing but that black hole, just hoping like something's going to happen. This does appear to be Chapter 2, Season 1 as it's being dubbed, and hopefully you can start playing it today or tomorrow or soon, but we'll see. So far though, looking really good. And we'll finish up with a comment of the day as you're seeing here. This one is from May saying, I think it would make more sense to just have frequent quitters off into their own games with other frequent quitters. Banning people, especially for a month or year, seems like it will just raise issues for the support team. That is a good point, as a lot of people will of course complain that they have been banned, even though they've probably quit like 10 matches in a row or something because it wasn't going their way. I like the idea though of sectioning off people who have been quitting constantly, like basically have some sort of mark that no one can really see, but of course the game can see, and it can kind of put them together like, oh, all of these people have been quitting, we'll throw them together and let them quit on each other, and then they'll learn that it's not fun when your teammates quit on you. I don't know if other games have done that yet. I'm sure there probably have been cases, because that seems like a great idea. You guys let me know down below if that is the case, because eventually they'll realize that, oh, maybe I shouldn't keep quitting since now my own teammates are quitting. The other one I saw was that ranks will be changed. Of course, if you keep quitting out, your rank will just go down. I also saw Overwatch had done something someone was mentioning where they made it so that your experience multiplier would actually drop. So you would go down to like 0.75 is what you would gain for normal experience, so you would be losing 25% like as you played, and then eventually it would fix as you stopped quitting games. But a lot of interesting ideas there and what they can do for quitters. I don't think, though, banning them for a year is the answer at all, though. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's Pokemon Sword and Shield's file size. Seemed to have catched a lot of people off guard, at least caught a lot of people off guard. Let me know if it caught you off guard, or if you were expecting it to be smaller, and now it's over 10 gigabytes. It seems like maybe there's some extra content in there we don't know about. We'll see when that one comes out. Also, what about Zelda and the missing blur on it? Do you like the way it looks better there or not? And then what do you think about Fortnite getting this massive revamp? Are you going back to it? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.